People of the internet, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Out of the Park Baseball 17 GM Mode Sim commentary for the Premier League Baseball and the Brooklyn Atlantics. I am F5 Penguin. You can find me all over the web at F5 Penguin. And in the last video, we talked about the playoffs. Wichita, reluctantly, unfortunately, unwillingly, whatever you want to call it, they beat us in 7 games, but we took them to the ringer, at least in 3 of those games. But nevertheless, we're in the offseason. We have things to do. We got work to do, as the 60s song would say. Another song reference. But here we are. So we had to make a couple of decisions. We had to cut some people. We had to figure out what we're going to do. A couple of things were in play, at stake, whatever you want to call it there. Mainly, had to shore up our starting pitching. Had to make sure our existing relievers would sustain. And then also had to just kind of shore up the hitting positions. Got to get a power guy in the outfield. We didn't really have that. McFeeters wanted too much money. Wanted $700,000. We were paying him $465. So we had to kind of weigh that as well. So here we are with that decision, and this is the month of October. Basically, it was very simple for us. So we executed the contract year on Alcala, and I know you're saying his ERA was high. He was our starter. He's now a reliever. We're paying $300,000 for the guy. All of that is true. But his leadership role is very high. And ever since we got him, we've been to the playoffs. So I'm going to keep him as long as we have him in place, because until I can find somebody else with very high leadership who is performing at least at a moderate level, we will never be as good as we were. So we're going to keep Alcala at $300K. And you have to think of it this way. We made an extra $1 million between merchandising and the $700K from the playoff revenue. We can swing the $300,000. I will also say we were over our hard cap of $2 million in cash balance to start the season. So I did buy 370 seats at $1,000 a seat in the offseason. Now we have a capacity of 30,370 in our arena, our stadium, the MCU Park. So we have that going for us. We have Alcala. We are good. Now, Curix is going to be out for another 5 months as of March 1st, is what it is right now. And that puts us into September, minimum, before we get him back. And he'll have to go through a stint in AAA. We're not going to have him for this year. He got injured a little bit late for us, and we're going to lose him for another season. So it's going to be like a Glazer situation where we don't have him for a full year on top of the 2 games we had him for. Curix will be out the door before you know it here, so he'll have to go back on the DL, and that's where we're going to be there. We did execute the contract here on Anatole Thierry as well, and on Curix, just to kind of go through that process. I thought we'd have him back sooner, so we're kind of just losing $30,000 from him. That was kind of a stupid decision on my part, but here we are. He had a setback, and we were supposed to have him for July. We now don't have him for the season. So he'll eat up $30K on the DL, and we'll call it a day. But we do have Thierry. We re-signed him, or at least extended him, $200,000 for the last contract year that he has. I did put in an extension here, and you'll see that in the log when we get back to it. He wanted a lot less money for his contract later on, since he did kind of slip in performance. $60K with 2 options at $70 and $85. So I did pull the trigger on that as well. So we got him essentially till he's 41 with option years. If he does well, we'll keep him. If not, we'll cut him. And that's no harm, no foul on our part. We'll hold on to him as long as he's producing adequately well. And if you look at his numbers, they were a little bit higher than last season by about double ERA-wise, but we did change his role this season as well. So he's still less than 4 walks per 9, still more than 5 Ks per 9, still above WAR. So you look at that, use him in a limited role, and I think we'll be okay with Thierry as one of our setup guys. Probably just not high leverage, but we'll still be in the game. And he's a leader. We need these things going forward. We did void the option of Chris Glazer. We cut him. We paid $15K to get rid of him. He did go over to our arch rival, the Hillsborough Hops, in our division for $28,000, but it wasn't worth the money we were going to pay him, which he wanted, I think, 160 on that contract year. And of course, we did keep Josh Wilson for $56,000. He's done quite well for us. I know we have an old and aging pitching core, but I assure you, we have solved that problem as we move into November, which we will do right now. So we're going to go through this together here. We have a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk about who we let go, who we re-signed, this is where we're at, and who we cut also. Tony Pena, gone. I had about 3 other catchers just like him, trying to make room for some of these stars to get up and make a statement in the majors and in AAA. And right now we're kind of in that holding pattern. We're trying to shore up some positions. Some positions aren't ready in the minors. So where do we go, right? You don't really have room for some players. We have to make cuts. He was one of the cuts. Kirshner, free agent. We let him walk for free. I don't really regret it. We sent him down, and he didn't really perform when he was in the minors for the 7 games, and he was just above average for us in the majors, so I don't know. He's still a free agent, so if I wanted to go re-sign him, I probably could. But I have first baseman. I really do, so I don't think I need him. We could have gotten something for him, but I tried to package him. I tried to sell it off with draft picks since we had a high draft pick this season. It just nothing worked out. Nothing worked out. So we said goodbye to him, cut our losses, not really a big deal. We did sign pitching coach Colin Schneider to a 5-year deal. So he's in our league now. He is our Brooklyn Atlantic's pitching coach for the foreseeable future. Thankfully, since that is working for us, That's good. And then we talk about all the renewals. So we had a couple of renewals here. Mizzle, Brady, Salazar, Rubenstein, McCarty, all renew. McCarty comes up for a renewal this year for his contract in general. We'll have to re-sign him. We have money to do so that's a good thing. Then we look at McFeeters here. Jeremy McFeeters. He wanted way too much money. Even though he was a 303 hitter, he wanted way too much money. Like I said, $700,000. Could not reasonably sign him for that much money with the silence that we encountered from him in the playoffs. Just couldn't do that. So we let him go. He became a free agent. We knew that was going into it, though. We made out on that deal. We got Wilson. We got some compensation back. We got cash back. That made us fluid for the month or for the year of 1960. So we move into 61 without McFeeters. I think that's better. Parrish renews. We get him as well as for another year. Glazer and Claude Thierry both become free agents because I did void the contract year, and I did not re-sign Claude Thierry at 40 years old. He moved over to the Savannah Bananas. That's where he's at. We'll see how that goes, but he wanted 180. I think he wanted 230 from me. I let him go. Hop, we got him on a renewal. I'm going to scroll up just a touch here. We got Bill Hop, Jason Shantz, Davies, McKinley, Schneider, and of course Leon, who was our amazing decision, 25 years old. That's our young stud. So we got Hop, Rubenstein, Salazar, Leon, all young, and then we got some older guys kind of rounding out the relievers, kind of leveling that off. So that's where we stand from there. Now, we did go through a couple of releases. We'll talk about those here. You'll be able to see right now. We did release Keith Jordan. Just couldn't find a spot for him. Wasn't maturing. Look at his numbers. They didn't really work out for us. He was slipping through as we moved him up. I gave him a chance in the majors. Didn't really produce for us. We look at the scouting report, kind of see the same thing. So we let that go. No big deal. And then a couple of older guys that just never made it, right? Never, either their control or their movement didn't happen. Chris Shepard, Fristow, Duff, and Lucero, who was in our international squad. You'll see here, I did it. I know you guys are going to hate me, but I did it. Charlie Philpott, we are keeping until he's dead. He is going to be the first number that we retire as an Atlantic. We do have him at a high cost these next 2 seasons. Now, that was from a re-sign from, I believe, 59, right? We had him in 59. We re-signed him for 5 years, at $650. But after that, so in 63, 4, and 5, he will be 40, 41, 42, and he'll only want $75K. So that's where we're at with him. Like I said, he's going to retire in Atlantic. He's been with us forever. That's just the way it's going to be. It's just the way it is, right? Look at his numbers, right? We're okay. Now, the problem is he can't play any position. He can only play left field below average and first base below average. He forgot how to play third base, apparently, but I'm leaving him in third base. We're seeing where that goes. I don't know. It may or may not do well for us. We'll kind of see how the season takes us and see if he goes back into a utility role or if we magically take on a DH role. We may have him there as well. Either way, Philpott's with us. Deal with it. I usually listen to everybody, but I'm not listening to everybody with this. And then I made another decision. I was paying Gilbert not a lot of money. And overall, he was a terrible scouting director after our previous one retired, which made me sad. Edgar Cantu, who you will recall was a Brooklyn Atlantic for a while after coming back from Joplin and going back to Joplin. We re-signed him as a scouting director, 5 years, $35,000. His stats were better by a margin than that of our previous scouting director, and we're getting better results from him as such. So we have him. I kind of like that. He's going to be our guy for the foreseeable future in that position. Now, here's where things get tricky. I'm trying to scroll up just a touch here. So we got 2 there. Scroll up a little bit right to 1 more there. Here's where we're at. We released Orrin Harris. No big deal. He was kind of on the fringe, didn't pan out. Is what it is. I think, he's still a free agent, so I'm not worried about that. Just didn't really work out for us. Mark Porter, Lee Thurston, and we did release McKinley. You look at his numbers, they did fall off, and we have people in place, or we're signing people in place to go ahead and take his position. Now, we had an opportunity to make something big happen, to really make our starting pitching core the best in the league. And as I was thinking to myself of who I was going to go for, I was going to try to aim for like a 30-year-old who had the ability, who was pretty decent, who was, overall a good to great player. Nothing spectacular. There were some options on the table. But then I saw that TR, who seems to have our number every single year, they did not have the cap room for the re-sign out of the 5-year minor league contract promotion deal at $10K for somebody who was an all-star. Like I'm talking like Zarnecki meets Capra meets Philpott in his heyday meets Kira's level all-star. Roberto Sabala. The name was silent until the past 2 years where he's been stellar. So I made the decision to go grab this player. You will see that we signed starting pitcher Roberto Sabala to a 7-year deal, max deal, $8.3 million. I believe it's the most expensive contract in the league, minus what we paid for, not we, but the league paid for Vincent Bueno back in the day. Here's what we got going on. Edgar Cantu thinks his movement's a 5, but I think he's at a 6. He's a starting pitcher. 8 stuff, 6 movement, 6 contact. This is good. This is our guy of the future. This is Leon Part 2. FIP minus is pretty friggin' good. And we look over at his numbers, setting records. 18 game starts, 129 pitches, 13 wins, set a record last season. We got a guy that's going to be a future number 1 for sure. This will fix our problems in pitching, 100% guaranteed. So now we have a starting pitching core. We have 5 guys in the rotation that are on lockdown. I'm thrilled. So here's how it works out. 1.3, 1.2, and then 1 million, 1.1, 1.1, 2 options, 1.2, 1.4. So we can get out of the contract at year 5. We didn't really backload it crazy. Kind of brought it down just a touch so we could sign new people later on in the seasons as they progress. And here we are. $150K if we do buy him out in the 6th year. I'm hoping that we get Edgar Cantu to look at him again. I had to actually remind myself to request a scouting report on him. And this is where we're at, okay? This is what we got going on. We have spent our extra money we had from the playoffs on a player that is going to give us the results we need. So there we are. Then we actually looked at a bunch of things going on here. I needed to figure out where we're going to go with third base. Didn't really have an option. Had a, no Philpott. Shortstop, not really a question mark, but something to fill in. We needed a fill-in role. Had to go there too. So we made a couple of free agent signings at cheap prices for minor league deals. So we got Tom Kendrick, who kind of plays utility, looks pretty okay. Some scout says he could be a big league bench, right? So that's where I went with him, kind of filler role. I moved him over to third base from shortstop based on his positions being the same. That's where we're at. Tony Salas, same thing, a little bit under there, but he looks good. He might turn into something to be a hitter one day. We'll see. And then we got Juan Corral, who actually made his way up to the roster. Juan Corral will be our utility player in the infield. He can play second and third base. He will be my defensive sub for Philpott, so they'll kind of work in tandem. I think that'll be good for us defensively. Philpott's zone rating has kind of tanked over the past 2 seasons, so that's where we're at with that. And then Luis Elizalde. Okay, 19 years old, and he looks to be a guy of the future as well. We'll have to see if that pans out or not. We got him for $8,500. I'm not too worried about that. If we can get some solid years out of him, we will see if it turns into something good. And then we did release Juan Munoz, Mike Bowe. You'll see that here. And then we did bump up Ray Ohala. And then as I talked about, we signed Anatole Thierry to a 3-year extension deal. That took us all the way through November. We were very active in the month of November with big decisions, big picture ideas, no co-manager needed. Thank you, Michael Scott. So December, quiet, didn't do anything. Marcus Trevino, we found him in Cuba, we released him, no big deal. January, same thing, except for we did sign somebody else. We had a little bit of extra money to make something happen, and I shored up the outfield position since we didn't have anybody of power note. We picked up a guy that can literally play all positions and will complement Perdomo and Capra in the outfield. We went with Mike Dufresne. So we look at his numbers, and his contact is a little bit low. He's still progressing. He's 22 years old. He wanted a major league deal. We got him for 4 years. Not a big deal. 4 years of $215 across the board with 2 option years. Not going to kill us. Not going to kill us at all, and we still have room for McCarty. We have it all planned out. We are in good shape. So if he does pan out to be a good hitter, he's going to be stellar, and we'll be able to re-sign him. If not, no big deal. We cut our losses after 2 years. The good news here is he's on the major league roster, as he wanted, as I wanted. He's a bench player, which is perfect. He's going to get experience whether or not he plays because he's on a major league roster. If he pans out, we are going to be in great shape. So I'm excited about this kid. I think it's going to work out. And then we released somebody from our international squad, Mario Quintana. That takes us to February, where we didn't do anything of importance in February. So we go to our emails real quick, and you'll see here it does wrap up our off-season to a degree. Everton Toffee staff member retires. Brad Rennie, we did re-sign somebody there. I'll show you that in a second. Cantu signing. Star, Sabala, Thierry. We signed the pitching coach, Alvaro Olmo. I believe he is he will be our Everton Toffees pitching coach. No big deal there. We have the Dufresne update. We have Hall of Fame. No players got in. Fans were a little bit upset about the loss of Claude Thierry. I understand why, but guy's old. Couldn't make it work. He only dropped 2 points, so we're okay there. And that takes us all the way up to the first-year draft. So here's where we stand. We are in good shape now with our system. Our farm leagues look good. Nothing's in the poor anymore. And our reputation from the manager and the AGM, who had unproven reputation, are now in good shape. The pieces are there. Starting to build them up, right? So we're in great shape. We have the right pitcher coaches, the right hitting coaches. We have the right people. Just the question mark on the table is the trainer, and I haven't found anybody better. So we kind of just have to deal with that. Kind of just have to deal with the trainer and hope that nobody dies the same way they died last year, the year before that. I'm looking for somebody new, but nobody's getting fired. So that's where we sit. We are up to the draft. We're not going to have a great draft this season. There are a couple of gems that I've scouted that I think are going to do quite well and fall late. Hopefully we can get 1 or 2 of those, cut the rest, and move on. The way our rosters look are like this. Kurix will move over to the DL as soon as I can move him. Then we'll have to send one guy down to the minors. Probably be Jason Shantz, looking at what I'm seeing here. But we have Capra, Folo. We're giving him a shot, seeing if it pans out. He had an awful year last year, and we're paying him way too much. So that's we're looking at the option here. We might opt out unless he wows us, right? We have Dufresne up there to give us a shot. Coral in the infield. Ohala in the infield. Newman and Davies, with Davies starting. And we'll have to figure out what we do, who goes down. Like I said, it'd probably be Shantz. Our rotation looks like this. Sabala, Leon, Rubenstein, Hop, and Salazar. All young dudes now. We did it, right? We got, I think the oldest guy is 27, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 27, 27, 27, 25, and I think 22. Yeah, so we got young guys in starting, older guys in relief, and of course, Mauricio Quires, 39 years old, holding it down in the closing position. What do you think? You think we got this? Like and subscribe to the video. Comment below. We are in good shape. This is the off season. I feel good. I haven't felt better in the 10 years we've been doing this. I haven't felt better. So we move into 1961. We move into the draft. And the next video will be the draft of who we got. Kind of break up the off season just a bit. And we have the, I don't know what they're calling it. It's not the PLB Cup, but it's the division rivalry. It's like the Northern versus the Southern, Central, and West or whatever, or Canadian division. All-star teams versus the NCAA all-star team versus the college all-star team versus the high, I don't know. Jeff's doing a whole big thing. I submitted my list. I had to go through all 6 of our Northern Division teams, put together a list of players. I did the best I could. We'll recap that. I believe that starts tomorrow. So that'll be in the next upcoming video as well after the draft. Let me know what you think. Find me all over the web at F5Penguin. Follow me on Twitter. Link in the description below for the Premier League Baseball website where you can check out stats, facts, and more about my team and all the teams in the league. And this, of course, was Out of the Park Baseball 17 GM Mode Sim commentary for the Premier League Baseball and the Brooklyn Atlantics. I'll see you at the draft with winners. That's what we do. Spend money. Most expensive payroll, $5.3 million. That's Brooklyn.